News First, face to face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
A very good evening and welcome to this evening's edition of Face to Face, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. As always, for the Newsfirst team, I am Jamal Ratnayaka. The freedom of expression, the right to peaceful assembly are some facts that have been enshrined in the Constitution as fundamental rights that the people of Sri Lanka are entitled to. But last Thursday, if you may recall, a group of peaceful protesters at the Liberty Roundabout were harassed by another group of masked men. And with me tonight is one individual who was part of that peaceful protest, who was also harassed by that unruly group. She has already been on Face to Face once more, but today we have invited her specifically to talk about the decadence, the moral decadence in Sri Lanka, and also the declining rule of law and the selective application of law here in Sri Lanka. So my guest tonight is Dr. Ajantha Perera, environmentalist, and as she herself has admitted, a civil activist also now. Yes. Thank you very much for joining me this evening, Dr. Perera. So let's get the ball rolling discussing what transpired last Thursday. We saw even on our news bulletins, we aired the news of your peaceful protest group being harassed. Yes. The placards that you were carrying were removed, they were ripped up by these masked men who appeared suddenly out of nowhere during the protest at the Liberty Roundabout. And this is a peaceful protest that has been taking place for quite some time. Yeah. Since 2022, if my memory serves me right, Dr. Perera. So can you just walk us through, me and the viewers, of what happened, because you have first-hand experience. Just walk us through what happened.
Well, basically, we were supposed to be at the site around 5 o'clock.
Right.
And I got there around 5:15. And as I was coming into the area from the Kolpiti Junction,
right,
I saw there were policemen. So as usual, I always talk to them before I go. Before we start our protest, we normally talk to them.
Right.
So I just said, hello, how are you? And they smiled. And so I walked off and I went to the area where we were protesting.
Right.
And then we each took a placard and, you know, we wanted to start the protest.
Right.
So all of a sudden, from this side of my eye, you know, I just saw a group of people suddenly appeared. Maybe about 25 to 30 people, all of a sudden were standing at the zebra crossing, you know, to cross over to our side. So I was thinking maybe they are also protesting over something else, and, you know, a little surprised by, you know, sudden appearance. And then I look at the side where the police were standing, and to see the policemen were moving out.
Right.
They were walking away towards Aralega Mandir. So I was thinking, what on earth is going on? Because they totally left us there alone, and they all seems to be moving away. By that time, these people have crossed over, and they were like kind of walking behind us, and all of a sudden they started to come near. So I didn't know who they were. They were masked. I mean, they were wearing, literally some were wearing masks and some have covered their faces with cloth.
Right.
And then they came very close, and I was startled. I mean, like unusually close.
Right.
They came very, very close to you, as if they were enough to touch you.
Right.
And I just moved away, and I, you know, was surprised by it. And then he said to me, you know, he said, why are you protesting? So I said, because of the situation in the country, we want to raise our voices about, you know, various issues, and and that's what we are doing. And then he kind of started to say, there are no petrol queues, there are no, you know, issues in the country. We have enough to eat, we have enough money, and nobody is suffering in this country.
Right.
So why are you protesting? There's nothing to protest about. So then they started to really pull the placards out.
Right.
and was very aggressive, and if you really looked at them, they looked extremely aggressive and they were very angry,
Right.
you know, and we could not understand as to what was going on. And then they started to complain about the national flag being there. They said you have no right to use the national flag while you are protesting. So they literally walked over, and you know, and in that time I also saw that they were also pushing around Fatima.
Right.
And I was really frightened by that, because you know, here are people around me and here are people around her,
Manhandling her.
And it was really scary. But at the same time, some others came over and they were removing the placards.
Right.
So we were really questioning as to what on earth are you doing? I mean, here we are standing there and peacefully protesting. Who are you, kind of a thing. And then the worst scenario was that we felt that we were left totally alone there by the police.
Right.
So it dawned on me at that moment, the police have deliberately moved out and left us alone to these people. So we didn't know what to do at that time, except to try to verbally say to them, don't come anywhere near us.
Yes.
Because they were trying to touch us and they were coming too close, and I have never experienced that in my life.
Did they seem inebriated? Did they seem that they were in their proper conscience?
No, they looked totally drug addicts.
Right.
I mean, the way they talked, they were drug addicts. You know, they kind of, the way they behaved, very childlike. You know, they were not in their senses.
Right.
And that scared us even more. So what Fatima and the other two ladies who were there and the gentleman did was, we took all these placards together as
Right.
much as we can, and we moved to the island, the
Okay.
center
Yes.
island, because we felt that is where the police are standing and
Okay.
we have every right to go and stand there.
Right.
So by the time we went there, they all came there.
Right. They
And
followed
they
you.
were trying to push us around. I mean, they were literally touching us, and
Okay.
which we hated. So I kept on saying, "Don't touch me,
Right.
don't touch." I mean, even when they were going near Fatima, I said, "Don't touch her.
Right.
You know, don't do that." So then I told Fatima, "Look, if we are standing, they are going to touch us. They are going to continue to do this. So let's sit down. Let's just sit where we are."
Yes.
Because if, in that sense, they have to really, everybody will see when they are touching us and trying to pull us up. So by that time, I thank the media who was around, social media and the media from here. You know, they were there, and Sirasa, you know, they were standing there and with their cameras on, and that helped us to feel safe.
Right.
Because they would not do anything to harm us.
Right.
You know, when they see that the cameras are on. And that helped us. But it went on for a long time. While we were seated there, they came and sat next to us and literally touching us again. So I kept on shouting and said, "Don't touch, don't come near." I mean, who the heck are they? I mean, you know, forcefully coming close by, and then they are shouting at us and saying, "Go home," and then they start abusive words like, "You're women who've been thrown out by your husbands,
Right.
and that's why you're on the street," you know, and then they started to throw money at us and say, "How much do we have to pay you?" And then they kept on saying, you know, things like, kind of, you know, I mean, very abusive,
Right,
you know,
very
saying
degrading
that,
statements.
"Why should we be interested in you? What parts do you have?" I mean, those were really verbally abusive words, you know, it was such a yucky situation. But I mean, literally what I could do was scream.
Yes.
And the second thing I could do was shout, and then I kept on saying, "Don't come near.
Right.
You keep your boundaries. You have no right to come near us."
Around what time did this happen, Dr.
This
Perera?
was around, I started
evening?
to happen around 5:20.
Right. So if my memory serves me correct, and if I am aware of the traffic situation on a typical Thursday evening, there should be at least one or two
No, there was
police
a Poya.
officers.
There was a
right.
Poya day.
Okay.
So, and the traffic police was also gone.
Okay.
I
so
mean,
the
this was
police magically
this was
disappeared.
the funniest part was even the traffic police
Right.
have left.
Okay. And then you called the police once more to inform of the situation?
Says that he called the police.
Right.
And
because we saw through our visuals that a senior official of the police did arrive at the scene. What was his response to the situation?
So he walked. He got off we saw a vehicle stopping, he got off the vehicle, he came over, and at that time we were trying to tell him, you know, and you know how frightened we are and what the situation is. He didn't want to listen.
Right.
He did not even bother to talk to us. All what he wanted to do was to get rid of those guys.
Right.
So he literally went to those people and tapped on their backs and said, you need to go. And my question was, they have abused us verbally, physically, and yet I assume he's the OIC. He comes over and sends them home.
Right.
I mean, literally to say, okay, now you've done your job, you can go home, and I'll take care of this situation. I mean, what a bad show is this? You know, and he didn't even ask us as to what happened. He didn't bother, and he even went to the extent of saying, he said, well, it looks like there was an argument between you and them, that's all.
Right.
You know, and to be very frank with you, at that time we were totally surprised, disappointed, you know, and we were, I mean, tormented. I mean, we didn't know what we were supposed to do, and I mean, I really thank God, because all these friends from Aragale, when they saw the live videos, they started to come, and they all came one by one, the Aragale friends. They all started to come, and then they said, you know, we are here now, you don't have to worry about it. And what should we do? We didn't want to go to the Kollupitiya police station, because, you know, we knew they are behind this. I mean, even right now I would say they are totally behind this. They knew that these people were coming. They were just standing there, you know. Suddenly when they saw these people were coming, all what they did was they left us aside and they went back to their station. You know, they were I mean, I believe it was pre-planned. So they left. They left us to these people, and later on I saw that they were armed. The very man who came and spoke to me, who was standing very close to me and asking me to move, right? And even when I was on the ground, somebody who was kneeling down there, he was armed.
Right.
You know, and it's a scary thing. I mean, I am happy that I control myself. I did not shout at him as such, or do anything, because he could have hurt me.
To aggravate the situation.
Yeah, he could have easily hurt me. So I believe they came with the motivation to hurt us, because they wanted to put fear on all the people who are protesting in Sri Lanka at the moment, because if one person gets hurt, then there'll be lesser crowd coming for protests. And that's what their intention was that.
So, but Dr. Perera, one question, an obvious question that would pop up in one's mind is, this is a protest that has been happening for over a year.
Yeah.
This is a protest that happens on Thursdays and also on Sundays. We've seen civil activists protesting in Tibrigasyaya. But why now, all of a sudden?
Well, I believe the reason being, now that they have brought this law, the online bill,
online safety bill.
Yeah, I believe that they want to make sure they go another step ahead.
Right.
Okay, so they have now the you know, that policy in place right now. So what they think is, okay, they are not going to take much notice of it. So let's now do it practically.
Right.
We are going to get them out of these places. We are going to stop them from coming. We are going to put fear. We are going to bring aggressiveness on them. We are going to bring thugs on them, so that they'll be so fearful. And if one of them get hurt, the rest will not come. You know, and I believe this was their picture. This was what they wanted. But one thing I'm so happy about is, Fatima was sitting right next to me and the other two ladies. None of us got up. We just sat there and we said to each other, we are not getting up till 6 o'clock. That's our time. From 5 to 6 is the time that we are protesting. We are not getting up and giving up. We did it for the sake of the rest of the people who are going to be protesting in this country. We will not, you know, we are protesting not because we are angry with someone, we are not because we want to destroy the country. We are protesting on behalf of the people of this country, and we believe that there's so much injustice happening in the country, there's so much wrong happening in the country, and there are so many decisions which are not being taken in the country, and so we want a beautiful country, we want a glorious country, and we are fighting for that.
Right.
You know, I don't know what the government is doing. I'm not interested in what the government is doing right now, but we ourselves who have been in the Aragalaya, who have fought that good fight, and we are not giving up yet.
Right.
We have not achieved the targets of the Aragalaya, and we will fight that good fight until we bring justice to this land. You know,
Yes.
and justice is that beautiful word we want to have in this
So
country.
what sort of progress have the police made? I'm sure you did lodge a complaint with
Yes.
the Sri Lanka police regarding this matter.
Yes.
And even today you went and submitted a complaint to the police headquarters, and another set of civil activists went and submitted a complaint to the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka.
Exactly.
So what sort of progress have the police made so
so
far?
we went to the Kolupitiya police station after we calmed down a little bit, and after our minds were kind of like at least a little bit better.
Yeah.
So we walked into the police station, and I wanted to give a statement.
Okay.
So I sat down so when we walked into the police station, every officer in the police station kept on telling me, don't you want to meet the OIC?
Right.
So I said, is there any reason that I should meet the OIC?
Right.
Because I want to make a complaint. And I'm not interested in meeting the OIC. I'm not here to ask for favors.
Right.
I'm not here to discuss. I just want to tell what happened on that road, and that's it.
Right.
Just write it down, you know. So then eventually they gave me an officer who sat down there. He asked me to sit down here. Then he asked me for my name. He asked me for my address. One thing I noticed was every time he was sitting down and trying to write something, somebody calls him.
Right.
He gets called. He goes out, and then he comes back again. It happened about
His attention
4 or 5
was diverted.
times. Somebody was calling him and giving him instructions, which is very sad, you know. And then he eventually sat down there, and then he asked me, what is your name? Where do you live? So after I've said that, then again someone called him. He came back this time, and then he said, I'm really sorry, I can't take your statement. So I said, why?
Why?
Then he said to me, only a woman could take your statement. He said, we have this policy in the police stations, when a woman comes to give a statement, a complaint, make a complaint, that she can only do that in front of a female police officer. I've never heard that before. I myself have, during the Aragalaya time also, gone and made complaints in the police station right in front of male police officers. And I don't know what happened. So then me and Fatima were asked to sit and wait. So in that meantime, Imran was giving his evidence. He was giving his statement. So we were waiting for the police women to come. And then 2 female policemen came. And they looked at us like this and said, are these the 2?
Right.
We were shocked to the brim. I mean, like, how could you talk to us like that?
Yeah.
Are these the 2? And I was so shocked. I didn't know what to think. And then, the policeman who was taking the statement, he said, oh, they'll come a little later. You just have to wait. They have some work. They went away. They never came back for half an hour. We were just waiting there, waiting for them to come. Eventually, when we realized it's not going to happen, and it was getting dark, and we were already shocked and, a little bit tormented. I mean, our minds were not working so well at that time, because we were really frightened in some sense, even though we showed that we were courageous women, but
there was
deep
a sense of
inside
fear.
there was a fear, because they were nasty. And I knew for sure they can do anything to you. Given if the Sirasa media person was not there, if the YouTube channels were not there, something drastic would have happened to us.
Right.
And we would have ended up in the hospital. We were so sure of that, you know, and it was so obvious. And, you know, because of that, we were so fearful. And, you know, and basically, you know, I mean, that's why we when we went to the police station also, we were still very frightened, you know. And to be very frank with you, I don't wish that this sort of thing should ever happen to anyone.
Right.
You know, and then what we did was, after we've given the statement, we went away. And then very next day, when we realized that they did not take our statements,
Right.
our statements were added on to Imran's statement. And they only wanted to mention there were 2 females there.
Right.
I said, no way. You write down my name in black and white. Right? I said, you write it down.
Yes.
Because I want the statement to carry the fact that I was there and we were all tormented. I want it to be written down. So then they wrote down our names very reluctantly. You know, it was so, they were trying to put it under the carpet and forget about the whole thing. And I believe that's why they wanted us to meet the OIC. You know, I mean, OIC would have come up with this story and then eventually it would have got, you know, it would have been forgotten. But then because of that, we went to the Human Rights Commission the next day. We went to the Human Rights Commission and we explained about the situation, and then we made a complaint there. Then what we thought was, this was really a distress to the women. Me and Fatima went through something very, very bad. She being a Muslim lady, all covering herself, you know, and yet men were trying to touch her. That was so bad. I was so hurt by it. You know, I was deeply hurt by the fact that when they were trying to touch her, I screamed. I kept on putting my hand like this and said, don't touch her, don't touch her. You know, I was more fearful for her than for myself, because I felt that they were coming so close to her. And she told me that when they came and lied on the ground, they were lying on the ground, literally lying on her.
Right.
How could these things happen in Sri Lanka? You know? And even the media was there, but yet they went to that extent. So imagine if the media was not there, what would happen? So we went straight to the, you know, Women's Bureau, whatever they call it in the headquarters. We went there, we made a complaint there, but as soon as we walked into that place, the lady in the receptionist, you know what she told us? She said, why did you come? So we said there was this incident and we wanted to make a complaint. Then she said, well, we can't take your complaint.
How so?
If you know the names of the people who were there, if you know where they live,
Right.
then you can make a complaint.
I see.
But without knowing who they were, without being able to recognize them, you cannot make a complaint. We said, what? You know, both of us were like shocked. What? And then we said, no, that's not our job. I'm not a policewoman. Do I look like a policewoman? I'm not dressed like a policewoman. I don't carry weapons like a policewoman.
That's the job of the law enforcement authorities to figure
and
out
why
who they
should
were.
I, a normal woman on the street, you know, go and catch these people?
Right.
Why should I be given that task? So what is the job of the police then? So we said, no, we know who they are. I mean, we have now been informed by so many people who love us. You know, they are doing their own investigations.
Right.
They have already found out who they are, where, in which watta they are living.
Right.
Everything is disclosed. And they even told us their nicknames.
Right.
Everything has been said. But we do not want to tell the police those things. You go and find it yourself.
Yes.
Because they know it, because they are also their friends. Why should I talk about their friends? They know them very well.
It's very ironic, Dr. Perera, that you mentioned you felt traumatized by the very people who are supposed to protect Sri Lanka's general public, because recently the Minister of Public Security said that after Operation Yuktiya was launched, it has brought the people closer to the police. The people have more confidence in the police. But what you are saying is completely countering that point, don't you think?
I am, to be very frank with you, I have lived in this country for such a long time. I have lived abroad for nearly 25 years of my life. This was the worst experience that I had, and I don't want anyone, a single woman in this country, to go through what me and Fatima went through. I will not allow that, and that's why Fatima and I are fighting this fight. We are going to fight it for the sake of the women of this country, you know, because if it happens to us, Fatima was so desperate, she kept on telling them, you know, look, you know who she is? She's a professor. And then they said, who cares about who they are? I mean, they were under drugs. They did not care because they were so much under drugs. And, you know, for them, it didn't matter. I mean, this was a scary thing. So, you know, and then today we went to the police headquarters. Now, I don't believe anything is going to happen. But at least we made complaints in the places where we should do that. The constitution of this country, the law of this nation says that we have every right to make complaints.
Yes.
We have every right to seek assistance.
Yes.
You know, and we are going to go to any extent to get the legal help that we deserve. Because the reason being, this is a very important case in the history of Sri Lanka where peaceful protesters, we didn't say a word, we were just standing there on the, you know, on the pavement. We didn't say a single word. We didn't say Jayaveva, we didn't say Aragaleta Jayaveva, we didn't say a single word. We were just standing there and a group of men comes along and the police give them all authority to do whatever they want to, and the police walks off. So I firmly believe Deshabandhu Tennukon has a lot to say. He has a lot to answer. Tiran Alas has a lot to answer. He's talking about Yukti. I want Tiran Alas to study that word justice again and again and again. And if need be, go back to the very school that you have built. Go and sit with the young children. And you ask the teacher who's teaching your children what yuktya is. Then you will understand that you have not done justice to women like us.
Right.
You know, you can't just use a word, a loose word.
Yes.
Yuktya. Yuktya for who?
Certainly.
It's ayuktya, not yuktya.
Certainly. So those were the very candid and very explicit matters that transpired last Thursday, and Dr. Perera was also a victim of it, and we sincerely hope that justice is served to you and your friends who were very wrongfully intimidated and also harassed last Thursday, Dr. Perera. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for Face to Face this evening.
I just want to say one last word.
Certainly.
I want the country to know I don't hate anyone. Oh, I am not doing this out of hatred for the people who harassed us. We have already forgiven them because they are human beings and they can make mistakes. But for the sake of the country, for the health of this nation, for the protection of the women of this nation, we need to go through that and we need to arrive at justice.
Right. So those are the final remarks by Dr. Ajantha Perera. As always, thank you very much for joining me this evening. And tonight, with all of the matters we discussed, I wish to leave our viewers with a quote by the Greek visionary Aristotle. He says, "At his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst." Thank you and good night.